Hello YouTube, my name is Dayton, also known as Day the CEO, and today what I'm going to be doing is a simple trade recap of the day. Obviously the markets have not been the best over the past few weeks, trying to manage positions, play with lighter size, and kind of pick and choose what stocks and setups are best to trade with the overall market right now. Now catching this downside is something that I've been doing a lot recently as the market continues to sell off, as we see a lot of weakness, and as we see more confirmation to the downside. Now, this morning, obviously waited a bit before I took any entries. We seen a hard reject of around this 434 area for SPY. We see this candle faked out and then pushed heavily to the downside. So my first play or trade today is going to be SPY below pre-market lows, which is around the 431.35 level. I ended up playing SPY as we see, a lot of tickers begin to sell off. Time and sales, watching ES, we see that the tape is printing to the downside. I always like to watch ES instead of kind of trading with the actual SPY, watching level 2 on SPY, just because it's more efficient for me. So that's just a little tip that I recommend. Now for SPY today, I ended up taking that entry. We had PTs of 431, 434, 29.2, 428.5, and then 427.5. Now all these PTs hit, except I didn't end up holding this long, obviously. I ended up getting out around this 429 level as we seen a bit of choppy movement. We've seen a bit of buyers come in, and you don't really know exactly where SPY is going to bottom out. You're never going to catch the full trade, and this is where we've seen a bit of choppy direction, and then we obviously seen this little mini flush about a point or so again down to the downside, where SPY decided to then bottom out and push back up to the upside. Now same thing kind of happened with SPY yesterday. If we zoom out, we seen a heavy sell-off into the morning, bottomed out at around 420, pushed back up to the upside. Same thing happened today too. We pushed back actually all the way above kind of this pre-market level of 437.6, and then had highs of around almost 440, which we rejected. Now price action got very, very weak. As you guys know, if you've seen on my Twitter, I told you guys that the upside is looking a bit too overextended. We can see some downside, which we did see this key reject. Tomorrow, more than likely, I'll be watching for a continuation break of around the psychological levels is what I would like to watch first, just to see how price reacts and then go from there. So that was the first trade setup with SPY today that I ended up trading. Now let's get into the NVDA trade that I ended up taking. So on NVDA, we've seen this demand zone around the 220 and 222 area, with buyers coming in around the 221 level. Now we could watch this to the downside if we broke 220, and we really weren't able to push that low just because SPY wasn't wanting to fall any further, and by the time SPY had already bottomed out, NVIDIA really didn't have too much of a move to the downside after market open. So what this kind of is telling me is that if SPY begins to push back to the upside, we can have some sympathy with NVIDIA. If SPY is able to hold levels, if SPY reverses and SPY has some momentum and the overall market begins to push, you want to watch for names that are holding up throughout the sell-off, because all they need is that extra little push, and we can see that upside, a little more volume, so on and so forth. So that's what we ended up seeing with NVIDIA. We saw this demand. I wasn't really looking to trade this bounce just because of the chop. We had already hit low of day. Could have taken it here, probably played around here. That's just in hindsight, but I ended up watching this level 221. We ended up breaking kind of this lower consolidation. We broke above the 223.65, which was going to be my initial entry. I didn't end up taking that trade. Maybe it was just an execution problem. I wasn't comfortable entering here. And then we had this move to this 225 candlestick, and when I saw extreme buyers coming in on time and sales tape as well as sympathy with SPY itself, that's where I ended up taking this trade actually and confirming my break to the upside. So I ended up entering at the 225 level for calls on NVDA. We ended up pushing up, rejecting, kind of consolidating sideways, and I ended up getting out of the trade around this candle at 735. Didn't really catch this move to 227. I ended up getting out at about 226.5 area, and then kind of chop and then move back up to the upside again. Now, for those asking why did I exit this trade here, as we push into this kind of zone, same zone that the market opened, just with all the volatility recently, and then time and sales and bids were kind of just moving sideways, no defined direction. We're in the same region where the market opened, where there was a lot of chop, and NVIDIA could have easily rejected here, went back below this 225 level and pushed back to downside, possibly even low of day, which it ended up doing further on, and I ended up missing this move. But really, if we look throughout the day, it's really just a lot of chop and zone movement. After consolidation, ranges break, that's where you're able to catch, your potential move. Like we see right here, consolidation, and then we see this break back up to the upside. Also watching these lower levels, we're finding a lot of stocks bottom out and tending to bounce. So with FOMC tomorrow, definitely want to be careful and, have correct entries. Don't go with large size tomorrow, and just kind of wait for the market to bring opportunity to you instead of chasing. So that's really it for today's trades. I didn't trade much, and yeah, drop a comment down below if you guys would like more of these videos. I appreciate everybody watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and if you'd like to join my Discord chat, it will be on Instagram at Project3 Trading. I appreciate everybody watching, and have a blessed rest of your day and great trading week. Peace.